it looks like we're seeing our participant count grow. I don't know that folks are able to see us just yet. We have hit right at 3. You should see hopefully our Interstride QR code, which is active, which will take you to the login screen. So if you are able to see us at this point and would like to attempt to log in to kind of check out the platform as we go through the demonstration, you're welcome to use that QR code. We'll be taking that down in just a moment. We will have time at the end or during the presentation for questions. Please send those questions through the Q&A, and we'll get started in just a moment. All right, good afternoon. Welcome to the Interstride Kickoff Demonstration. I'm David Powers, the Assistant Director of Internships at UTA's Career Development Center. We are very excited to have partnered with the Office of International Education to provide this resource, Interstride, to help address those career-related challenges faced by our international student population. Before we start the demo, I'd like to allow my colleague with OIE to introduce himself. Austin?
Yeah, hi, my name is Austin Perry. I'm the Associate Director for International Student and Scholar Services in the Office of International Education. And I am super excited for you guys to hear about this great new opportunity for you. I think this is going to do really good things for our population, for OPT and CPT, and maybe even H-1B, which is a little beyond the scope of our office, but I know that you guys are interested in. So I'm excited for you guys to get to hear about this, and we'll be available for questions for how this might match up with specific UTA requirements.
Thank you, Austin. And it's a pleasure to be joined today by Interstride's Kendall Perez. Kendall will be taking us through the demonstration of the platform. And of course, as I said, we'll have time for questions following. So with no further ado, we want to give Kendall most of the time. Kendall, would you please take it away?
Awesome. Great. Thank you, David. Thank you, Austin. Excited to be here. As they mentioned, my name is Kendall Perez. I am the University Relations Manager for Interstride. So very excited to be here. Very excited to just give you a good demonstration on here's what this resource is. You have access to it. Here's how to best utilize it as you embark upon your own career journey, job search process, whatever you want to call it. So great, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and just dive into some things. So I'm going to start us off with just a little bit of a presentation. I'm actually going to zoom out for a second. So first of all, Interstride, what is it? Some of y'all may already know. A lot of y'all may already have profiles. I know David and I worked with launching. So Interstride essentially is a global job search platform. It was started several years ago. My boss, our CEO, he's from Nepal, and he went to grad school at Berkeley. And when it came time to start his own career journey, his own job search process, he noticed that him and a lot of his other fellow international peers had a lot more hurdles they had to jump through as compared to their domestic counterpeers. So that process and his own career journey led to the inspiration of creating Interstride. So we've now been in operation for over 5 years. We're continuing to expand. And it's very great just to be a part of this team and helping folks what is already a pretty vulnerable process. So hopefully this can just help, give you some good tools at your belts as you navigate your own journey through this. Okay, awesome. Also, Austin, I just saw you change your background. Go Broncos. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and start sharing my screen and just go into a little bit of some good things to know. So if we're only joined here by international students, hello, awesome. We're going to go over a little bit of some key terms that'll just be helpful for you, just to have a little bit of a framework before we go into the demonstration of the platform. If you are a domestic student, I really want to highlight Interstride can be a great tool for you as well. Some of these upcoming terms, they're not as applicable, but we'll get in the platform shortly. So mentioned a little bit about us, who we are, how we came to be, but just some good a good framework for y'all to know is, as you are going through your own process, everyone's is going to be uniquely theirs. Everyone is at a different level in terms of where they're coming from, what different visa sponsorship that folks may have, if folks may have family in the US. So everyone's coming at a different level. So it's really important for you to know some of these key terms going into your own process. So for example, CPT versus OPT, right? Like CPT, that's something where, for example, if you need field work done to graduate as part of your degree program, or you have to do an internship, this is a special type of visa that allows you to be able to do that, so that you can utilize during while you're enrolled, whereas OPT can be more outside of the time that you are considered a student, but also during too. But all of these are gradual next steps all the way to what is H-1B or green card. So these are all very important different employment opportunities. There are a few different sessions I know in the upcoming weeks that go into a much more in-depth analysis between the differences of these as well as what they are. So I highly recommend you checking that out in the next few weeks. But some of the, some challenges international students have when going into the job search process. One of the biggest ones is work authorization. This is a tricky one and also sometimes a very complicated one. So it's really important to start early, to ask questions, understand your scenario, because again, sometimes sometimes your situation can be very uniquely yours. So you have some great resources available through, again, through Austin, through your own Office of International Affairs, but you do have a lot at your fingertips. If you're feeling like it's a lack of professional experience, try to get involved in your own program. A lot of professors are doing their own research all the time, and they're constantly needing research assistants. So maybe use what is available at your fingertips to get some more experience. If you're looking at lack of a professional network, I will say everyone here already has a very extensive professional network of at least thousands, and that is through UTA. It's a big program, it's a big school, you have a lot of folks, you have a huge alumni network. So trying to leverage that if you feel like you don't have that much of a professional background. If you're wondering about sponsorship challenges, again, we can look at different data from Interstride. I'll show you how to do that. Show you in terms of who's hiring international talent and for what types of positions. You can look at the difference between the top H-1B employers as well as cap exempt employers. And again, I'll show you through that as well. You can also check out your alumni data. And then lastly, for immigration hurdles, it's looking at different options, exploring alternatives. There's a lot of great alternatives such as these. So exploring different immigration opportunities. Ask your employer maybe to go ahead and move you around if your visa got denied. I mentioned my supervisor Nitin earlier. That was actually his path now to working permanently in the US. He initially applied for H-1B visa, got denied. The company he worked for had an office in London, and he went and lived in London for a few years, and then transferred into the US later. So there's a lot of different routes that you can take, and again, everyone's situation is going to be uniquely theirs. Another big option B is Canada. A lot of times there's very similar opportunities, but there's not as many restrictions on their own immigration process. So I just say this all just to provide a little bit of a framework of going into this presentation on how to best utilize this. Okay, cool. I'll stop sharing for a second while I load on my other screen. Alrighty. So here is the homepage. This was on the QR code that David had earlier. I'm going to throw this in the chat as well, in case you want to save that link at another date and time. But it's student.interstride.com. Now, when you log in, you'll want to log in using your university credentials. So if I try logging in with a uta.edu email, you'll see that I'm going to get redirected towards single sign-on. And this is where you will just sign in as if you normally do when you log into your university portal. I am not a UTA student, so that is as far as I'm going to go in that regard. I'm going to go ahead and sign in with my login info. But when you log in, you are greeted with the dashboard. So this is what the home page looks like. You'll see that there's a lot of different features that'll go ahead and highlight. So for example, on our homepage, we are constantly as an organization sharing pertinent articles related to things such as immigration, career support, current economy trends. So you'll see these are great articles just to check out. You can always have it. Excuse me. We also always send out a newsletter that has some of our biggest articles on there. But something to check out. We do offer. You'll see on the corner over here different things such as a orientation. We do an immigration course. And again, if you were to click this, it takes you to just a little course that you can take to gain further knowledge on some of even those key terms that I mentioned earlier. So more opportunity at your fingertips. When you first log in for the first time, it'll ask you to create your profile, and that's where you'll put in your settings. That's where you'll put in a little bit more about you. This is where you'll also have the opportunity to connect your LinkedIn with your profile, which I highly recommend that you do, because then that's when you'll be able to easily do things such as connect with fellow alum. So, and I'll go ahead and showcase how to do that. But that's the homepage. But really, the platform is divided within 4 main sections. There's job, network, learn, and tools. Job is really the main bread and butter of Interstride. This is where you're going to be able to get the most out of this resource. This is where you're going to be able to search international friendly corporations, find out more information on who's hiring international talent, all that good stuff. So you'll see that jobs is further divided within on the search jobs. I'm greeted with the opportunity to go ahead and put in my search criteria. Now we have a few different filters automatically in place for you. So for example, you'll see right here, top 500 H-1B. It's automatically selected to this filter because we do know that about 80% of H-1B recipients are getting sponsorship from those top 500 employers. So, you think those big names, so such as Bank of America or Google, the large corporations, they are doing the vast majority of hiring when it comes to international talent. Not all, but if y'all want to be able to narrow your search just for those main companies, you can do so right here. So if I'm looking at a finance related position, I can go ahead and search that using that top 500 filter right now. And you'll see postings available, things. So some familiar names, there's Google, there was Siemens, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, and some pretty well-known names. But if I want to go ahead and just use that filter to go ahead and search for opportunities there. But also there is another filter that we have, and this is cap exempt. So I mentioned top 500 employers tend to do most of the sponsorship when it comes to H-1B visas. But a lot of folks, their number one objective is to remain in the United States. And the visa lottery system is completely at random. That's not something that anyone can guarantee. Last year, the US government gave out 80,000 of them. We'll see what happens the following year. But cap exempt, there is no limit for the number of visas that the US government gives for cap exempt jobs. The reason why is because the nature of that work is either higher education based or nonprofit based. So if that is your number one objective, to remain where you are, cap exempt can be a good plan B for some folks who are willing to do that. So if I change my search criteria, still looking at finance, but to that cap exempt, you're suddenly going to see now jobs for Cal State University, NYU, Michigan State, Loma Linda, whatever that may be. So some cool filters to go ahead and play around with. Again, you can go ahead and do all companies if you'd like to. And this is where you can search all different types of listings out there for finance. So you can also narrow it down by state. So if you're looking, say you want to remain within the Texas area, if you go ahead and narrow that down, again, you can, if you want to look at remote, if you type in remote here, then you get taken to remote postings. So if you put that in cities, so you can narrow it down as appropriately. You can also save all of these too in your own search criteria. And I also want to mention that this is a global job search platform. So if you want to look at opportunities both within the US and your home country, you can do that. Or if you're a domestic student on the line and you want to look at different international opportunities, this is the place to do that. So say I'm a student from India and I want to look at opportunities both within the US and back home in India. So if I want to continue my finance example and search that, suddenly I'm going to go ahead and get greeted with listings for opportunities in India. So some familiar names, UBS, and then maybe some not so familiar names. Just kind of depends on your criteria. If you're looking for your search process in a few different routes, so maybe you're looking in multiple countries, or if your major is something where you can go into multiple different fields, you can save all of your searches right here, and you can give it a title, and you can give notifications as to new postings on a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly basis. So you don't have to search through all of the postings the next time you log in. It'll be saved for you, so you can just pick up where you left off. So I have a few saved searches from some examples that I've done. So yeah, just so you can go ahead and search and have all of these. And again, all those new listings for that search will go ahead and be posted right over here. So a cool tool just to go ahead and utilize. I also want to mention that we have that top 500 cap exempt filter available. That is only within the US because that is a US specific feature. So if I'm looking at opportunities in the UK, you'll see that that filter is suddenly gone. Now, if I'm interested in maybe searching abroad and looking at opportunities in the UK, that would be awesome. I would love to live in London at some point in life. If I select one of these countries, you'll notice that there's a little insight right here into that country. So if I'm kind of curious about maybe seeking that opportunity out, if I go ahead and click this, then I'm taking into our little bit of country insights as to what it means to live, work, immigrate abroad. You can find information on the cost of living or healthcare or banking information or visa information that may be required. So if this is something that you're interested in, again, if you're casting a wide net, or maybe you really just want to look at several opportunities available for you, you can go ahead and do that. If you're not really sure, if you're like, well, I would like to, this is a great landing spot to do that research, to see if this is something that you want to move forward in or not, either way. But if you're like, after doing that, you're like, absolutely, I'm very excited. I want to potentially move forward with searching opportunities in London. Great, awesome. Hit UK, search for whatever you're going to search, and go ahead and start your process. So that's a little bit on how some of these features can work. Again, can be used, it's a global job search platform, so it can be utilized from a domestic lens looking for global opportunities, or an international student lens looking for domestic opportunity or global opportunity. But there's a lot of cool features to go ahead and play around with. But this next tab that I'm talking about, this US Visa Insights, this is predominantly just for international students. And I'll explain why in a second, but really this is your opportunity to understand more of an in-depth analysis of different organizations as to whether or not they hire international talent, and if so, for what types of jobs and how often are they doing so. So you'll see automatically we're greeted with the top sponsors. Again, I don't think it's a big surprise here that the #1 hire for international talent is Amazon. But if I were to click Amazon as an example, I can get a little bit of a blurb about them over here just to understand their company. And I can also find out information as to what types of jobs are they sponsoring. So you'll see that they've done over 4,000 petitions in the past for software developers. You can see that about a third of them are entry level. So if you're coming in with a little bit more experience, or maybe coming from grad school, you're more on the qualified end, but there's definitely still taking some entry level folks. For product managers, okay, they're definitely looking more for qualified and experienced folks. So this can essentially give you a little bit of a deeper understanding into all these different companies as to how they're bringing on people and for what types of jobs and experience levels required. So if I'm coming from undergrad and and if I'm a software engineer and I see this, I'm like, awesome, cool. I'm gonna shoot my shot with them. If I'm, looking more for product manager, I might see, if I'm not coming from any experience, coming maybe straight from undergrad, I might be like, okay, this kind of steers me in a little bit of a direction. Like I know to put maybe a little bit more of my time in this job as opposed to product manager jobs. It's a random example, but it again can help steer you in a direction. If you want to see if maybe you have any connections for this company, and this could be another great thing of integrating your LinkedIn. So if you hit that button, you have your LinkedIn integrated, then you can browse their homepage. You can go ahead and search for connections that maybe you have here. So if this is something that you want to go ahead and utilize, absolutely, highly recommend. So you can go ahead and maybe search by see if folks have graduated here as well. So again, you know what I mean. Another perk of being able to just integrate your LinkedIn to be able to connect. So okay, so quite a lot of people, almost over 1,500. So those are 1,500 potential connections you can make with some folks if you want to start on your own application. So this is, again, so that's how this US Visa Insights tab works. So you can, again, search by company, you can search by industry, you can search by job type. So again, if I want to continue my finance example and I want to go ahead and search, I'm greeted with all these different finance related companies. Now, if I hit this map mode up here, this is where I can have more of this is where I can zoom in a little bit more and find out where these jobs are, where these companies are. So if you're not necessarily bound geographically and you just kind of want to search, you just want to play around, be like, hey, what's out there? Or I'm curious about the East Coast, or the West Coast, and I want to just play around with the map mode. Or maybe you're like, no, I'm very much bound geographically to a specific region. Great, you can search within that specific region. But if, say if you are looking for, I saw, no surprise that there's quite a lot of finance jobs in New York City. So the more you zoom in, the more detailed it becomes. But if you want to go back just to list mode, then again, you can go ahead and search any one of these different companies, have a general understanding in terms of who are they hiring, how are they hiring. So in this case, for accountants, EY has done over 2,000 petitions for international talent. Goldman Sachs, let's see here. Okay, for general analyst positions, they've done over 1,000, with most of them being entry level. So again, if I'm a international student from undergrad and I'm a business student and I want to move into this, all the green lights are going off in my head. I can maybe hit up some people on LinkedIn, or what's really cool is right now we're in petition mode. So for every company, if you go to position, now you're greeted with all the job openings that are available for this company. So I can browse any one of these, see if they apply to me, and then go into apply, or I could save them for later if I want to do that at a different point just by starring anything. So that's a little bit on how the general job search tab differs than this US Visa Insights tab. The job search is kind of like I'm directing my own search either at this location or using this filter, whatever that may be. The US Visa Insights tab is a little bit more like I'm doing my research specifically on this company or this area geographically, or this industry. So there's a lot of great tools here for you to play around with. You can find a lot of great info essentially, and it kind of help. It's kind of a one-stop shop location for your research as you move forward through what is already a pretty vulnerable process, right? So hopefully this can at least provide you with more tools in your tool belt as you embark on your own journey. Okay, so that is the jobs tab in a nutshell. Again, there is quite a lot that you can explore. I will tell you, I do not consider myself the most technologically advanced individual out there. But the second, third time I logged into this platform, it really started to flow. So it's pretty intuitive. There's a lot out there. So I recommend over the next couple weeks or next bit of time that you just log in every once in a while. Maybe set up your first job alert for potential opportunities that you're looking for. Okay, so I want to go ahead and also just let you know a little bit more of the platform. So there are these additional tabs up here. So this network piece, so this is where folks have the opportunity to be able to connect with one another. Your network is specifically within UTA. So it's not like with every single student who utilizes the platform from all different institutions. It's UTA's network within Interstride. So this could potentially be classmates, friends, colleagues, whatever. So if you are looking to connect with more students, this can be a great opportunity to do so, to be able to share resources. You can discover folks on the network. I also want to mention the network is a totally opt-in, opt-out feature. So when you create your profile, it'll ask you, do you want your profile visible on the network? So if you're like, I don't want it, that's okay, easy. Just go ahead and go to your settings to go ahead and change that. This is where you can just maybe share resources and connect with other folks who are going through a similar journey as you. We do have topics. Think of them like Facebook groups. You know, they can be open or closed groups where folks can have it be centered around a specific theme. So we do have some topics that we've pre-made as an organization. So we have like the Vietnamese Student Network or STEM careers. So those are all ones that we've made. If there's something where you are like, I want to create my own, it's very easy to do so. All you do is hit that little plus button and give it a name, give it a title, let it know if you want it closed or open, hit next, start inviting people, and it is good to go. So a cool feature to play around with if it's something where you're looking to connect more with fellow international students, or just any student. We also do have this Learn tab. I will say after jobs, this is my second favorite one. The Learn, the reason why I say that is because I think that there's a lot of great information here. So these webinars, we as an organization are constantly putting on webinars, and some of these webinars are really great nuggets of information. So I highly encourage you to check them out. Again, we are constantly throwing them. So if it's something where you miss, that's okay. You can also always go to on demand, and not all of them get recorded, but the ones that do get recorded do show up on the on demand feature. So you can always look back on it at a later date and time. But the only difference is you can't ask questions during the pre-recorded one. But for some of them that we have coming up, job search strategy for international students, U.S. permanency residency options or family options for immigration sponsorship. We do a immigration visa and immigration Q&A, and some of these we're partnering with outside outside immigration attorneys to making sure that you are getting the most up-to-date information on that. So some cool thing to check out. Again, this is all available at your fingertips if you'd like to utilize it. We do have additional resources. So things like we do a podcast that we've launched once a month. And again, it's pertaining to relevant topics such as career readiness, international trends, stuff like that. If you're ever like, I want to learn more about CPT and OPT, well, again, more sessions coming up in the next few weeks, but we also do provide just some tidbit of information here. So something good to look at. We also do have some different student services, such as some scholarships that are specifically geared for international students. So things to check out. And then lastly, we have our tools. So here's where we do have a checklist. This encompasses your entire job search process from like the beginning all the way to salary negotiation. So again, just some great tools to go ahead and check out. You can add your own subtasks to all of these if you want to create your own different task. You can always mark these off too. You'll be like, I completed this. So kind of, again, help steer you in a positive direction. We also do have a career game plan. So this is a self-assessment based off of NACE's core competencies. So NACE is the National Association of Colleges and Employers, and they did a bunch of studies to essentially see what are the most common characteristics that recruiters are looking for when it comes to new hires. So these are those 8 characteristics. So this is a self-assessment to see where you lie within each of these characteristics. It'll give you a percentage breakdown, and it'll also give you tools to be able to help improve upon that. Now, I really like this because personally, I think that this would set me up in the mindsets of starting my journey of getting ready for interviewing. Like if someone on the first question is like, tell me about yourself and how would you describe your communication style? And I'm immediately like, like how would I describe my communication style? I don't know, then you're already kind of starting off a little bit frazzled. So this gives you the vernacular for you to be able to articulately describe yourself. That's kind of ironic that I'm saying that wrong. But this will give you the your word bank to be able to use as you do describe yourself. So again, another tool for you to check out as you start this own journey. But that is the platform in a nutshell. I know that was a lot of information of me just spewing out for a while. So, but again, I really want to mention that it is pretty intuitive. There is a lot of information out here, yes, but it's a lot of good information. It's a lot of information to help you. So, always just continue to take it, day by day, one step at a time. And if it's ever anything that you're like, I just wish I had a little bit more of a foundation, check out some of these upcoming classes that are happening. You can always do things such as take this little orientation course or this little immigration course, and just feel free to browse around. Again, there's a lot of different little nuances within the platform. So, if it's something you're like, I'm bored, you can always just check some of these out just to help you on your own journey. So I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. I'm going to give it back to David and Austin. But thank you guys.
Thank you, Kendall. It's a great presentation. I did have a question. I've been knocking most of the questions out during the presentation, but I did have one question. Is the job search only a desktop feature? If not, how can I access it through the mobile app? It seems a student was having trouble searching through the mobile app. Could you address that, please?
That is a great question. So we are on the mobile apps. We're on iOS and Google. The job search feature is only on the desktop. So that is something you will have to utilize using your laptop, your computer, whatever that may be.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great heads up. And we'll begin sharing that with students. I don't think I realized that either. We'll begin sharing that with students when we're discussing the platform on campus. And just a couple quick plugs and things I wanted to highlight that Kendall mentioned. The research and networking tools in Interstride, I think, are very powerful. There's just a lot of great information there. When we previewed the platform, I was fortunate to have a couple of Nepali students in the office with me, and they were over the moon excited about some of the tools that are offered there. So really recommend that you take advantage of those and dig around, kind of play with it. Also, I recommend the Interstride newsletter is great. There's a lot of great tips, job search tips directed obviously for international students there. And I recommend following Interstride on LinkedIn as well. You'll get some announcements for some of those really strong webinars. And I've found some very good panel presentation there. Also, something that we're looking into that I wanted to make students aware of is you can add an RSS feed to Interstride that would pull jobs from Handshake to give us kind of a larger database of positions. The reason we've not done that yet is we don't want to muddy up those search results that are offered at Interstride, because we've gotten some suggestions from students that the handshake search regarding sponsorship and OPT, CPT is not always accurate, or students don't feel that it's accurate. So that's something that we've been looking into, and we don't want to pull those jobs because I think one of the great values of Interstride is that search feature is narrowing in on those positions that are going to be the best fit for you. And a quick reminder, I did want to draw your attention to the comments section. If you would like a weekly update on internships directly to your inbox, we do now have a student distribution list. You can email us at mavsedge at uta.edu. You'll see that in the comments section, and we'll add you to that weekly distribution list. You'll see employers on campus, new Edge positions. You'll see information regarding Interstride and other search resources there, and that will arrive in your email every Wednesday afternoon. And before we kind of bring things to a close, Austin, are there any reminders or notes that you'd like to share before we wrap up?
No, I think this was fantastic. This will be a really good resource, both this video training and Interstride itself, of course. I'll just say one more time, we've got the link to our seminar schedule there in the chat. So if you're thinking about how do I become eligible to apply for these jobs or to work at these jobs, you got to start there if you're an F1 student. And we'd be happy to talk to you in the Office of International Education about specific questions about how do I do OPT, what are the specifics of CPT, and we have videos on our website, obviously a lot of information there, and multiple seminars and advising and express advising. So just remember, you can't work off campus without permission. So you got to have something. But please go explore this, tell your friends about it, sign up, and hopefully this will lead to some good opportunities for our international students.
Thank you, Austin. And Kendall, I did see that question pop up that I noticed that you were responding to, but I thought it was a great question, an interesting question that maybe everyone would like to hear. That I believe the question was, how does Interstride go about recruiting employers? Because that's a question we get very frequently from international students, is that obviously want more opportunities and the chance to engage with employers. The question was, how do you go about recruiting employers for the platform? Would you care to speak to that? And I might add a couple notes about the things we do as well.
Totally. Yeah. So a couple different ways. One is through the employer portal that we have. So we encourage employers to post directly onto the portal. I dropped that link in that answer. And then the second way is just through our algorithm posting international friendly positions. They do that a lot through that US Visa Insight tab that I went over early. So utilizing that to be able to post what is going to be internationally friendly.
Thank you. And I just wanted to add, because we get that question so frequently, and we don't have a chance to address it to large numbers of international students, we're continuously thinking of ways to bring more opportunities for international students to engage with employers who offer sponsorship Obviously, that's one of the reasons we partnered with OIE to bring the Interstride platform. We are very focused on it, and we give it a lot of thought in creating events. A lot of times, the problem is the challenge with employers, even employers who sponsor, they only sponsor a lot of times for very narrow need-based type sponsoring. And a lot of times that means they're not casting a very wide net. So they may be a little slower to want to attend, a career fair or a large event because their needs are so narrow and so limited. So that does make it really challenging in trying to. We've talked about, international student specific fairs, and bringing those employers to campus. But it is challenging to pull those employers together, even honestly for panel presentations in some cases. So, we are excited again that we have Interstride as a resource. We're hoping that will provide us some leads to reach out to some of these employers and maybe to be able to create more of those kinds of opportunities. But I know it's challenging not only for students, but also for folks on our end who are in the recruiting side of things to get employers on campus. And I think we have a couple more questions here. We want to make sure we address everyone before we leave. Let's see. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for the kind comments too, by the way. Some of these are just very kind comments. So appreciate those. Let's see. I found
if there was the country insights, if there was one available from a state point of view, and right now there is not. So that is right now it's still country as a whole, but there are some of the countries, if there's a little bit more information on all of them, there's going to be more detail from big cities, big urban areas. That includes the US. So if you were to click on any of those countries that have just more of that data available, then you'll see more info from a city lens.
Thank you. And here's a great question, Austin, too, that you may want to help me with. Do you have the opportunity to reach out to any Interstride staff or mentor, or do we reach out to UTA? And I know that we want to make sure we make the point that students need to be interacting and engaging with OIE, for those kinds of questions. And of course, we're here to help support, help them refine their materials and assist with the job search and that sort of thing. But would you like to speak to that, please?
Sure. Yeah, I think the answer to the question depends on why you're reaching out, right? So if you are reaching out for how do I, student, get permission to do CPT, what's the process at UTA, or what do I need to do in order to be eligible for OPT, or what are the restrictions on OPT, or any immigration question, that's OIE, right? For general job search questions, like I think we had earlier in the chat, resume help or practice interview sessions, Career Development Center has some great resources for that. There are also some general information, there's some of this in Interstride already, right? Some general sort of what is CPT, how to interview, type videos and panels and so forth. I would say Interstride is the obvious choice. Well, I would think Interstride would be the obvious choice for like technical help, right? I assume there's a reset password and those types of things. But the answer to the question, it just depends on what you're asking, right?
Yeah, I completely agree with Austin, and I want to highlight just these two gentlemen and their offices. They do a lot of great work. So I would say if you have more questions that's going to be uniquely your situation and how you're going to be planning your next steps, utilize these gentlemen, utilize these offices. They're here to support you, so you can get much more care, as opposed to where if you have more questions about the logistics of like the website, or again, if it's something where there's login errors or something like that, hit up contact@interstride.com. That is our general email, and someone from our team will definitely help support you in that end.
And I think the other piece about mentoring, the capabilities that you have within Interstride to connect with other international students, to research using LinkedIn, for alumni who may be working for, specific companies or organizations, utilize that feature, to do some informational interviewing and connect with folks in the field. And sometimes, you might identify a mentor in that way. I mean, you really would like to be working with someone within your field of area of interest in a lot of cases. So I think we got one more question here. No, just another thank you. Really appreciate that. Thanks a lot. Thanks again. Thank you, Kendall, for your time. Austin, I really appreciate you taking the time to join us. We're excited about the platform. Again, you have the Mavs Edge email. You're welcome to email me at David Powers or add me on LinkedIn if you have questions, and we'd be happy to help. Thanks again, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
All right, take care.
Sure. Thank you.